ladies and gentlemen of Hashtag Nation, did you guys miss us? I think this is funny. Is that Paul and I are beginning to start our 13th off season of Buffalo Bills football.
Yep.
It seemed like it just flew by, didn't it, Paul?
Yeah, well, misery will do that to you. It's the last 5 years have been like pretty good. But
It has to
the
do something with
first
the
7 were,
quarterback, I think.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, the first 7 were tough.
Yeah, and then Joe is like we were talking about before the show. Joe is on his 5th season with Hashtag Sports. Is our play-by-play guy. He also has the Razor Sharp picks every Wednesday, so make sure you guys check that out during the season. But today we're here to talk about the Buffalo Bills in their off season, making some moves, signing some players, some core players to their roster, and we're going to go through them one by one. So first up, you guys could pick this one literally. It was almost like a no-brainer for the Buffalo Bills, especially, and I can't remember how the timing coincided with it. Greg Rousseau, defensive end. Now, since defensive ends are making as much as quarterbacks now, signs a 4-year, $80 million deal, right around his projected average per year, and then shortly after that, Von Miller released. So, Joe, I want to talk to you about it first. Now, sure. Do you think locking him up completely throws away the fact that the Buffalo Bills might draft that in this upcoming draft, or do you think that they're good at that position now after signing Rousseau?
I don't think they're good at all. Of all the extensions, this is the one I like the least. To be honest with you, I mean, if you follow me on X, you will see that I announced my displeasure on there as soon as it happened. Right now, he is now the 11th ranked highest paid on average defensive end in the league, and he's one of the 20 million guys now, and I just don't know if he's worth that. That's my only worry. Now we just found he's now only one of 4 defensive ends that the Buffalo Bills currently have on roster. So, no, I think the Buffalo Bills can still definitely be looking at defensive end early in the draft, especially with this year's core draft as far as how good the defensive line is overall, as far as the depth as well. So, I think that the Buffalo Bills could use 1 or 2 of their draft picks to pick up a defensive end. Because if you remember, Rousseau, I believe, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, was part of the draft class where the Bills went back-to-back with defensive ends. Yep. So we might be seeing something like that again.
Well, I think age has a little bit to do with it, right? So the Bills are buying kind of large, what it feels like with Rousseau. But the fact of the matter is that if you look at Rousseau's pressure numbers, he has almost as many pressures as the next 2 Bills combined. So like the pressure numbers are there, although the sack numbers certainly aren't. But we've talked about it before with McDermott. He loves pressure guys, right? So Rousseau fits exactly where you'd expect in a McDermott style defense. Now, the other side of that is you're now asking him at that contract amount to play on the other side of the line where he's historically been not as effective. And I think that's probably the bigger piece here is that, sure, does the contract stipulate where a player plays? No, of course not, right? Not necessarily. But at that contract amount, he's still, not amongst the top paid players at the position. Because honestly, he probably on the free agent market would have done a little bit better had he just played this year out. So being in at about $20 million a year is actually probably pretty good value here for Buffalo, given the age of the player and sort of those fringe stats that some people like to look at, like the pressure numbers as an example. You can't always just look at one stat, but durability has been relatively durable. He's played, I think he played almost 80% of snaps. I think he played over 70% of snaps last season. It's increased every year. So trending upward, Buffalo is buying large on a player that still has quite a bit to prove at the NFL level. With that being said, this position's nowhere near set, right? They're nowhere near set.
No, and when you look at it, just to back up what you're talking about, Paul, he started He missed 2 games in his first 4 years of playing. He had 67% snaps on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, with this contract comes a few things. Like maybe he is going to be playing on the other side of the ball where he historically wasn't very as effective. The other thing being with this, people are going to expect numbers with that. And what maybe a little bit of an uptake in how much he's going to be on the field as far as that goes. And you know what, a lot of times people tend to do this with Buffalo Bills when the contracts are first signed and the player doesn't play to that contract. It's like they hold them to that number.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be happy, Joe, would you be happy if this was a 3-year $45 million deal? Because eventually, usually when players get cut that sign big deals, they get cut like 3 years before it's supposed to end. They'll say, well, this contract was actually this is what that cost the team in the long run. And, in 2028, the Buffalo Bills can get out of this if he does have 3 years that are just abysmal. I mean, if the first year cap hits almost 6 this year, and then 11.8, then 23.3. So, and after that, the Buffalo Bills could relatively get out of that without any huge penalty with some cap savings. But, if it were to, manifest.
Right. And you brought up a name earlier that, the Buffalo Bills just released Von Miller. And when you first think about what the Bills signed Von Miller for, what was it, like 6 years, 120 million, something like it was just a crazy number where if you think about that and think, oh, that's the contract, oh, that was a bust. Well, yeah, if that was the contract that was held throughout the whole time. But if you look at what the contract actually was, it wasn't anywhere near that actual number, the first number you heard when the Bills first signed Von Miller. And it makes the blow a little bit lighter. I still don't think Von Miller, came to Buffalo and did what he wanted to do, which was win a championship. And that's what Bills fans wanted too. So in my estimation, that means it was a bust. But still, to your point, just because you see a number at the beginning of a contract, at the beginning of a signing, doesn't necessarily mean that that's what that number is going to be if that player gets released. Yeah, I'd feel much more comfortable at 15.5 mil a year than I am at 20 mil a year. But I'm also very comfortable if he goes beyond those 3 years, because that means that the Bills organization sees that he has earned that 20 mil a year contract. And there's incentives involved in there too, and things like that, and guarantees that, of course, matter as well. But yeah, I would obviously be more comfortable with that. But at the same time, if that's what happens, that means that he has not produced the way we want him to. And even though I'm not a fan of this contract, I like being proven wrong sometimes too, especially at this end where I want him to exceed my expectations and live up to the contract. Get those 7, 8, 9 sacks a year type numbers that this type of contract will demand, because you're up there now with the TJ Watts, with the, Hendrickson, like all those big names. That's who you're up there with now. So the numbers need to show that.
Well, and I'm glad that you spoke the ghost of Trey Hendrickson, right? Because he's asked for a trade with Cincinnati. And I think a lot of folks will say, well, Buffalo just signed Rousseau. They just put huge money in on Allen. They just took a huge dead money bomb, releasing Von Miller, and not as a post-June 1st cut. One of the reasons that you might make a move like that is because you also have to carry that player's cap until June 1st. So if you just release him now, sure, you're taking more money on this year, yes, but you get the money now, right? Like you get $8 to $9 million in cap space today instead of having to wait for that until June. And that just doesn't allow you to be flexible. So like I heard Joe Marino say, Greg Rousseau is Brandon Beane's second best first round pick. I mean, the list isn't very long. The Bills have had a pick, every other year in the first round for the most part. Next to Josh Allen, it'd be Greg Rousseau and Ed Oliver, and end of list, right? That's where the debate is. But Trey Hendrickson, now I don't know why Cincinnati would ever want to trade him to Buffalo. He's projected, his market value is near $30 million. But what is a reason why you might need a little bit of cash now? Well, you need a little bit of cash now because you extended Rousseau, and you can't put the Bills addressing the other opposite side of that defensive end position. It is going to be a priority for them. How big a priority? I mean, you got the 30th overall pick in the NFL draft. You ship that to Cincinnati. I think that's fair market value for Trey Hendrickson. And I think the paint job is very different if you're looking at the Rousseau extension. If you know what's on the other side of the line, I think that's part of the reason why there might be some apprehension here. It just doesn't. You just know you're not done, right? You just paid a bunch of money to Greg Rousseau, and you're nowhere near done.